Hey everyone, my name is Tyler and welcome back to the St. Saviour's virtual youth group. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications every time we post a new video. Let's get started. Today's topic is mental health. This topic will be split between two episodes. In today's video, we'll be talking about identification. Today, we're going to be defining mental health, identifying what positive mental health looks like, and discussing how we can bring awareness to such an important topic. Over the next 2 weeks, you're going to get to hear from some amazing special guests. They will share their thoughts, opinions, and expertise on youth and mental health. To me, mental health is something that we all have. It's such an important conversation that needs to be had. One of the most important parts about mental health is self-care. Check out this video.
We all have mental health. It is just as important as physical health. It is not only about mental illness or mental disorders. This is just one part of a bigger picture. It's best to think about mental health as being on a continuum, rather than people being either mentally ill or mentally well. We are all on the continuum, and we move up and down according to factors such as our genetic makeup and upbringing, our life circumstances, and the stresses we are under. At one end of the continuum, we have mental disorders, like depression or anxiety. And at the other end, we have states of positive mental health, when we're thriving, content, and fulfilled. The aim of mental health interventions is to move people up the continuum, so that they're able to reach their full potential and live satisfying lives. The World Health Organization describes mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Being mentally healthy means being resilient and able to cope with difficult times, feeling in control, being confident, feeling good about yourself, managing and expressing your emotions, building and maintaining good relationships. We all experience periods when we feel stressed, worried, anxious, sad, afraid, or angry. These are all normal emotions. However, when these emotions become severe enough that it interferes with a person's ability to function daily, and these feelings become persistent over time, then it can develop into a mental health problem. There are many different types of mental disorders. When left untreated, mental disorders can be chronic and long-lasting, and are associated with increased disability. They significantly have an impact on daily functioning and frequently interfere with family, social, and work responsibilities. Fortunately, there are effective treatments and evidence-based interventions available that aim to help individuals understand and cope with symptoms of mental illness. However, very few people with mental disorders access existing treatment services. This may be due to barriers such as the stigma attached to seeking help, the lack of understanding of mental health problems, uncertainty of how to get help, or the fear of disclosing mental health problems. Research shows that stigma remains one of the biggest factors preventing people from seeking help early for their mental health problems and getting the appropriate support they need. It is important to acknowledge that we all have mental health and have a personal responsibility to learn how we can improve and maintain our well-being in order to lead meaningful and satisfying lives.
I'm joined now by two special guests. Let's hear what they have to say. I'm joined today by Tristan Mitchell and Tessa Bortoluzzi.
So my name's Tessa, as Tyler said. I'm one of Tyler's good friends. And I'm a medical student right now in my second year at the University of Manitoba.
Currently, I am in Prince Edward Island studying at Holland College. I'm a paramedicine student, and I've never been to the East Coast before, so it was a new opportunity and an exciting education opportunity because the pathways that the college is going to open in the profession for me are going to be really wide and great. So I'm just excited to be here. I'm working hard, I'm very busy, but it's good to be able to be at school even during these trying times.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you so much for connecting and talking about mental health. It's such an important topic. And what's your connection with mental health awareness?
Yeah, so I think mental health is super important, and I've been involved in different advocacy initiatives around mental health awareness. So I was involved with the national Canadian organization jack.org, which tries to connect youth around the country to kind of revolutionize the way we all think about mental health. So I was involved through conferences and through different volunteer initiatives at my campus at the University of Winnipeg when I used to go there. And then currently I'm involved in different peer support groups on campus at the University of Manitoba, and different teams advocating for changes at the student level and the faculty level about mental health.
I think that it's a really complicated thing to bury down into a few words, but overall, your mental health is your emotional well-being. It's how you feel about where you are in your life, about how you feel each day, how you're getting along with other people, and how much you're valuing yourself, taking care of yourself. I think those are big aspects of mental health. And a lot of people think that when we talk about mental health, we're just talking about mental health issues or people that struggle from perhaps mental health disorders. But in the end, we all have mental health, because as much as our body health is a part of us, our mind health is a big component of it as well.
Yeah, so to me, mental health is something that we all have. And it's a part of our health that is often invisible to others, that it's hard to see, it's hard to know how someone's doing, it's hard to know what end of the spectrum someone's on regarding their mental health. And it's something that I think it's really important that we're all aware of, that we all have, and that we can discuss it openly. And I know there's various barriers that we all face to discussing different mental health struggles we face, but I think it's something that is being changed in a narrative that we are discussing more, and it is something that all of us have.
Yeah, I agree. It is definitely not perfect yet, but we are discussing it more. It's becoming more mainstream. It's becoming something more of a normal topic that we can have every day. And like you said, everybody has mental health and is on a different end of this spectrum, and that's a great term. And why is it so important to talk about mental health?
I think it's something that is very overlooked, and when it comes to your day-to-day life, when it comes to school, your friendships, your relationships, mental health plays a role in all of it, because when you function at your best and you feel your best, you're giving your best effort into everything. You are relaying your, best vibes with everybody. You're getting along with everybody well. And when you're not in a good state, you tend to really retract. You don't want to be overly social with people. You're maybe stressed. Maybe you're having some anxieties. It's important to talk about it because we cannot always be perfect. Our health is not something that is stable all the time, and depending on what goes on in a day, different things can affect us in different ways. And so learning how to cope with when times are bad and learning what kind of things help us getting to be in a better state will help us improve both our emotional well-being as well as our physical health, because you tend to get more tired, lethargic, and sick when you're not feeling your best mentally. So I think that it's an important part of health. We talk about it a lot when we study medicine, because it's really easy to think that I just got to stay fit and eat right, but you also have to think about what makes me feel good in a day, what gets me functioning at my best level.
I was doing lots of research about mental health, obviously, for this conversation and for this youth group topic. And I was really alarmed to see that Canada is the third highest suicide rate for young people right now, in that 13 to kind of 24 age range. And in connection with that, I'm just wondering if you think that social media plays a role in that at all with young people's mental health.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely potential for social media to have a negative impact on young people's mental health. I think social media is so used so pervasively throughout our society right now. And it is something that we often can see individuals from a light of like their best self. You know, like we see social media posts that are often posts of people who are doing their absolute best, or just a post about something that is like a best part of their life. And I think that can affect others when we think of maybe comparing ourselves or thinking that, oh, well, we don't feel this way, or, oh, we haven't done this, and look at this person like doing this or having this great day, and like I'm not having a great day at all. And so sometimes we can think that maybe we're like the one-off having a bad day where everyone else is living and enjoying themselves. But also in social media, I also find that nowadays there are more conversations about real things that are going on in people's lives and more bad days that people will discuss on social media. And I think that there's pros and cons to social media where we can see it in the light of maybe comparing ourselves or being affected by different anxiety-inducing messaging that might be on social media. But I also think that it can be beneficial in connecting each other and being able to connect with others via social media. So I do think there are pros and cons to it, but I do think that it definitely can affect mental health.
In terms of interactions with people, not always do we always get along with everybody at school. And so now with social media, you are constantly in contact with people that you go to school with. You don't get a break from interacting with people. And although it's called social media, it's not very social at all. It's actually something that pulls you away from having healthy interactions with people. And that constant exposure to advertising, to the different ideas that companies want to put in our minds, such as how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to feel, what we need to buy next. It's a lot for the young mind to handle. And I find that, especially with looking at my younger sister and with her generation who's had iPhones and technology since grade 6 or 7, it's such an integral part of their life, and nobody really knows how to unplug and step away and take a break from it. So it can be a tool, it can be a good thing, it's a great entertainment device, it's a great way to keep connected with people, but if you're having toxic interactions with people online, if it's becoming something that is getting in the way of homework, getting in the way of you doing physical activity, interacting with your family, it can be detrimental for anybody's mental health. And again, it's something that we really, really overlook.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a pretty controversial topic and platform, and you're right. There's so many pros, cons. There's realistic and very unrealistic aspects about social media, and I think that people have to always remember that there are real people behind those perfect posts, right? And it's nobody is living that perfect life, and we are all not who we perceive and put out there on social media all the time. The way that I've always looked at it is it has to be a positive addition to your life. It can't be a replacement to social interaction. And I think that's the main issue, is that there's so many young people who it's their replacement for human interaction. It's their replacement for healthy, social interactions with other human beings on a day-to-day basis. And it becomes this false sense of friendship. It becomes this negative impact on their life, and it becomes
totally.
And I think too, people have been online a lot recently in the last few months, with everything going on in the world with the COVID-19 pandemic, and people doing a lot more physical distancing, social distancing. I know those terms got tossed up a lot, and I think right now people are feeling extra alone, extra secluded, and I know that just from reading different articles and seeing online that depression and anxiety and stress are on an all-time high right now, and mental health, I think, is taking a pretty big hit. Do you think that the current situation and the pandemic have affected our mental health?
Yes, I totally think that it has. I think it's been a huge change in the way we live, and we've really been living in this new normal. And I think the pandemic also brings a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of questions that we all have. There's a lot of answers that we don't have. And I think this really affects us because we're living in this world where we don't know when things will go back to the old normal, or when things will change, or when things will be closed down again, or when, so it's very hard. There's all these questions that are unanswered for us. And I also think losing the face-to-face interaction is really tough for people. I know we do have Zoom, and I'm grateful and fortunate to have access to these platforms where I can talk to you and talk to other friends via video calls and even phone calls. But I do think that it is really tough being without face-to-face social interaction and seeing people, hugging people, being able to see them in how we used to be able to see people.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it is trying to find alternative ways to still be connected. And that's where really that social media and virtual connection can be used in a positive way, right? We have this resource where at a time when we can't all be together, we have a really cool way that we can connect and still feel a part of something. And I think that is something that people are trying to do more. And I think it will make a big difference in the long run, as opposed to being completely isolated at a time when we all need to be coming together, in some way. So I believe that society and the world today is becoming more accepting and understanding of things like depression, things like anxiety, and really starting to understand it more and make it more mainstream, that these are very normal feelings. These are very natural, emotions to feel. So I do hope that we are coming to a place where, suicide rates will come down as a result of those things. But somebody that's feeling that way, what are your ways that you cope with stress or anxiety in your day-to-day life?
In all honesty, Tyler, it's funny because a lot of people ask me, they're like, Tristan, you always seem very happy. I am a very positive person, and I interact with lots of people, and I'm a very optimistic person, but I'd be full of it if I didn't say that there's not times where I get down on myself, where I don't feel that I hold value as a person. And there's times where I get very lonely or stressed out and I have self-doubt. Everybody goes through it. Nobody's perfect. And at the end of the day, life is this staircase, and we're always climbing up and we're trying to do better. And sometimes we get this idea in our head that we should be somewhere right now. And when we're not at that point, we feel like a failure. You're not a failure for having emotions. You're not wrong for being human. This is a natural thing. And it is great that we're coming to a point in society where people are understanding and learning more about mental health. But knowing about it is one thing. Being able to listen to your body, to be thinking about how you truly feel is really important, so that when you do get down and when you're getting nervous about your mental health state, you are comfortable to try and reach out for resources. There's different phone numbers like Kids Helpline that are great resources if you're really in a urgent state of needing assistance. And more schools are starting to have really well-trained counselors. And again, finding support circles and people that you're comfortable to talk to is important, because you should never have to be alone in those kind of thoughts. You should never have to feel you're alone. We all deserve to be happy and to find fulfillment and to be comfortable with ourselves and find our self-worth. And it's not uncommon. But again, we are coming to a point in society where that stigma, it's dropping, and you're not going to be criticized, and anybody who does judge you is not somebody worth having in your life. So again, if you're ever in a spot, don't be afraid to reach out. Try and reach out. It's better to work on it than to let that problem continue and build up, because the more we let our problems build, the heavier we feel, the harder it is to cope. And, it's really important to speak out and talk.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's super important to check in with yourself if you're able to, and just kind of take a moment in your day or throughout the day just to think about how you're feeling and how your mental health is doing. And for me, some indications that I have is when I haven't gone outside in a day, or if I've just been like cooped up studying and I haven't taken a break to do something that I love to do. And I know for me, I struggle with always prioritizing my mental health and like making the time that I want to make for my mental health. And so for me, I just kind of reflect and I'm like, oh, I haven't gone outside today, or oh, I don't journal every day, but journaling is something that I do. And if I haven't journaled in like a month, I'm like, like something's up. I haven't taken that time for myself to kind of self-care and take a moment to reflect. And so for me, I just try to keep up with that. Or if I haven't worked out in a day or, something like that, I definitely try to check up on what I've been doing and what I maybe would want to do and what I have time to do.
And what are some little things or tips that you have for things that you do when you are feeling depressed, stressed, having anxiety, anything like that in your life?
Yeah. So when I am feeling in those like ways, I do try to just like take a moment and take some deep breaths. And I find it really helps me just to kind of recharge and take a break and just consider like, okay, this is like one moment in my life right now, but I should take a break from it and just kind of think about other things and have that time for myself. So I'll take some deep breaths. I also really like to journal. So if I'm feeling very stressed, I will make the time to journal and just write out my thoughts and what's going on right now in life. And that helps me and is very therapeutic for me to kind of release my thoughts and express myself and write those down. And then I also do find getting physical activity really helps me as well. And so just like whether it's going outside for a walk or going to the gym or doing an at-home workout, it really helps me to sweat a little bit and get some exercise for sure.
We need to really break the stigma about reaching out when we're not doing too well, because a lot of people do feel very alone, especially in times like we are right now. And it's now more than ever that we need to build the habit of reaching out and also building healthy relationships with both the good people around us as well as teachers, coaches, therapists, and anybody else who is a good resource to assist you.
Yeah, I think for me, there's one analogy that's always stuck with me and throughout my advocacy in mental health and learning about mental health awareness, something that's really stuck with me is it's like a teacup analogy. So you need to have a full cup of tea before you can pour your cup for other individuals. So I know so many people are so selfless and we're always focused on helping others and wanting to be there for our family, our friends, other people in our lives. But it's really important to remember that you need to fill your own cup before you can really pour a lot of yourself for others, And so for me, that's a great analogy for self-care is filling your own cup and making sure that you're checking in with yourself and taking care of yourself so that you can really take care and help others. And that's something that I think is really important is to find what works for you, what helps you feel cared for, what helps you feel more calm and feel like you're having more positive mental health at the time. And so I think it's important to recognize what you really enjoy and what really helps you self-care.
I think the biggest takeaway, like you just said, is that the best thing we can do for mental health awareness is have conversations, is have interactions like this, continuing the conversation, making it mainstream, to talk about it and to be open about it and share. And don't be afraid to reach out. That's, I think, the most important thing.
Absolutely. I think people are all wonderful and they all have worth, and we're not perfect, and it's okay. We should not be ashamed of having feelings and emotions and not doing our best. It's better to reach out than to feel buried deep under it. So I appreciate that you're having this conversation, and I hope that whoever's out there listening, that you find some value in these things. And with Google and with your phones, this is an opportunity to use it as a positive thing. Learn about mental health, learn about techniques to build healthy habits. It'll be worth it for the rest of your life. Thank you again to Tristan and Tessa for sharing your thoughts, opinions, and insights on youth and mental health. Now we're going to hear from Tamra Martin.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for having me. My name is Tamra. I work for Child and Family Services. I'm a child care support worker. I work with ages 0 to 17 from different races.
And in your day-to-day work and working with youth especially, do you have lots of conversations about mental health?
Yeah, we actually deal with quite a bit of youths with mental health. Again, they're coming from homes of like poverty, physical and verbal and sexual abuse. So there's different levels of mental health, and some of the kids, they're not, they don't themselves recognize it, as a lot of them aren't aware of what it is. They just, they have the stigma that, oh, if you have mental health, crazy, right? But we try to instill in them that it's not like that at all. So
It's not a negative
like
thing.
yeah, that is no, not at all, and that it's common, and that they shouldn't be ashamed of it, but there's all different types of mental health in these youths also.
Yeah, and I think it's hard sometimes to recognize that even in yourself as an adult, never mind when you're a young person.
Yeah, I mean, and young people too, they have way more pressure, right? So, and it's not easy for them to talk about it at all. A lot more so with family, because I mean, there are families out there that just say there is no such thing as mental health. It's all about attention seeking, and that's not the case. Not the case at all.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes you're right. People will get misdiagnosed or just pushed to the side as behavioral problems, as opposed to something that is a real issue that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so I was doing lots of research about mental health and was surprised to find out that the suicide rate in Canada is one of the highest in most of the Western world. Have you had to deal with experiences like that?
Yes, we've had kids come into care. It's constant 24-hour suicidal watch. And we talk to them, and it boils down to again, poverty, bullying, drug and alcohol abuse. Unfortunately, a lot of kids are exploited in the sex trade, which unfortunately is through family members. Family violence. A lot of them feel that they don't fit anywhere. They don't have a place to be themselves. They have no self-worth. It's sad. And I mean, there are not enough resources or support systems out there for them at all. And even the ones that they do have out there, I find that the kids would rather have someone come to them than for them to go someplace and talk. Because if they go someplace, I had one child actually tell me that it feels like they're being judged. And I said, no, they're not judging you at all, but they feel much better if a person was to come to them and sit down, have a casual coffee with them, let them talk. And even if they don't want to talk, just sit there with them. That's all they want. But yeah, the suicide rate is very, very high, and it's sad, very, very sad. I couldn't imagine feeling that, you have nothing to live for, and that life is so bad.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's making the decision to go and talk to somebody that requires a lot of confidence and vulnerability, and that can be hard. I think that would be hard for somebody who's already struggling with other, issues in their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when somebody, a young person, comes to you guys, what are the first kind of steps for you guys to kind of identify what they may be struggling with?
Lots of signs are the drug and alcohol abuse, isolation from family and friends, mood swings, high risk behavior. All their experiences are different. But yeah, a lot of kids that come into care, they're very, very closed off. And those are the ones that you need to worry about the most.
Yeah.
Because they don't talk about it. They want to pretend it doesn't exist. They go to drug and alcohol. They fall in with the wrong crowd, because these people are all saying what they want to hear, and it's just sad.
Yeah, and they say that often too. You it's the people that you need to look out for are the ones who, are kind of staying off by themselves and are suppressing how they're feeling and aren't being as open.
Yeah. I find the ones who talk about it, they have the idolization of suicide, and they may try it, but deep down they don't want to do it. They don't want it to be the final destination. They are looking for someone who's going to talk to them and understand them.
Right.
And it's sad when they actually accidentally fall through with it, right?
Yeah,
when,
and by reaching out, they're looking for another option.
Yeah,
they're looking for another resource.
Yeah, and there's nothing out there, it's sad. And it's, and the younger kids, like it's there's a lot more out there than what we know,
right?
Way more.
And how many students or young people are you working with at a time?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it a shelter that you work at?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, so they can stay there?
It's an emergency shelter. It provides care for them until the social worker has found a specialized foster home or a group home for them, or happily be able to go and return back home. Yeah, it's a very short term. Well, it should be short term, but it isn't always.
And so,
and we don't have the resources or even the knowledge to provide for these kids. We just do the best that we can, what we know and what we've learned by doing our jobs.
Yeah. And would you say that the family life is one of the biggest issues with these kids? Biggest
issues. Yeah.
So they're having these struggles and there's no support system already in place at home.
Exactly. Yeah. And even to get them a support system in with psychologists or psychiatrists, the wait list is so long. We do not have the resources here, or the doctors. So
right.
it makes it difficult, very difficult. And I can't imagine, even being the family of a child that's committed suicide. I couldn't live with that. That would be heartbreaking.
Right. So it's
family's fault, but
No, but it's unfortunate now that we have this conversation. It seems no surprise, that the rates of suicide and the rates of mental health problems among youth are so high in Canada. And at the same time, it's really sad because I think we do have the resources. But I think, and I've had this conversation with a few other people this week, that mental health does not get enough awareness. Does not get talked about enough and is not as mainstream as it needs to be.
I think that people are embarrassed about it. They don't want to talk about it because, again, it's that stigma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I suffer from depression and anxiety. I have for 22 years. And I can honestly say that it's only been in the last 10 years that I've admitted it, and I can openly admit it, and I'm not ashamed of it. It's something that's out there. People need to know about it, and people don't need to be scared of it.
Yeah.
It's just part of who we are. We try to deal with the situation in the best way that we can. I'm fortunate to have had, support from family, friends, my church. That's been my greatest gift in helping with all of this.
And I think you're right. And having the understanding of what you're feeling and what you're dealing with and finding that support system is only going to help you, do your job better, connect with the youth better, and understand how they're feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Because
cool.
when a kid comes in and they say, you have no idea what I'm feeling. You know what? Listen, I'm going to tell you how I feel. And they'll be like, I'm like, yeah, I do.
And I think they'd be surprised to know that so many people understand what they're feeling and because they're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they need to know that they're not alone, and there are hundreds of others that are going through the same and feel the same, because people don't want to talk about it. And it, like you said, it needs to be out there. It needs, more media work on it. that it's
the conversation needs to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Tamra.
You're welcome.
You know that feeling where your thoughts scare you or make life tough? Sometimes it feels like no one else in the world has those thoughts or feelings. No one seems to know how difficult it is to deal with your feelings. And it's not easy to share your deepest secrets. You might think something is wrong with you. Or you might worry what other people think. And all of that makes your thoughts and feelings worse. Our culture has created this environment of shame. Until the 1960s, society sent people away if they had challenges managing their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Over time, we learned that we didn't have to be afraid. We learned how to help people get better. We became hopeful. But there are remnants of those images in our culture today, which is why some people still feel uncomfortable talking about it. The stigma has taken new forms too. With more access to more people all the time, it can seem like the world is telling us it's not okay to be anything but perfect. The truth is, everyone has thoughts or feelings that can be hard to deal with. So why do we make it so difficult on ourselves by judging others who could be going through the same challenges we are? What if, instead of seeing labels, we saw people who are struggling and could be there for them so they didn't feel so alone? What if we looked past our fear of mental health and started to talk about it in a constructive way? What if, as a society, we used empowering words and healthy images to help people feel supported? Maybe then, more of us could feel comfortable telling others when we're having a hard time. Maybe more people would get the help they need. And maybe one day we won't have to talk separately about mental health and physical health, but just health. The truth is, each of us has the power to change our culture. Will you join us?
Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. One thing we learned today, that it is so important to find that support center. Find those people in your life that you can talk to and have open conversations. It's something that we all deal with every single day. Nobody has it right, and nobody is struggling alone. Continue to have conversations about mental health. Talk to friends, talk to family, talk to the guidance counselors at your school. Get connected with an adult that you trust. It is always a good time to start talking about mental health. The first step is identification. Understanding yourself before you can help others. And understanding that it's okay to not be okay. The suicide rate in Canada is the third highest in the Western world for youth ages 13 to 24. Have conversations. Talk to your friends. Check in on the people in your life that seem like they have it all together. The people who are never sad. The people who are always smiling and laughing. You never know who is struggling on the inside and who needs someone to talk to. But before reaching out to be somebody else's support system, make sure that you understand yourself emotionally and mentally. Well, that's it for today's video. Thanks again for checking out the St. Saviour's virtual youth group. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so that you get notifications every time we post a new video. Part 2 on mental health is coming next week with even more special guests, more videos, more resources, and more amazing conversations. See you next time. Why do you think it's important to talk about mental health? How can you spread awareness?